Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic peeps, to my channel, Simon Slashers, and today, we're not talking about books, no, we're talking about movies, and I am joined by a movie connoisseur, if I do say so myself, and that is my friend, and also he's an amazing author. His name is Nathan Tolle. Thanks for being here, Nathan.
Hi, Kelsi. Thank you so much for having me. This has been something I've been wanting to do for a while. There are very few things in the world I'm qualified to do, but I think one of them is ranking all the Leprechaun movies. And I was so surprised to find out that before this experiment, you had not seen any of these movies before. Is that right?
I've seen the first one like a few times, but never
Mhm.
any beyond the first one. So I was really excited to see, are we going to match up with these rankings? Like, what's it going to be like? Am I even going to enjoy these films? So I
Mhm.
guess you guys will have to keep watching to find out the answers to all those questions. And
Yeah,
Nathan doesn't know any of my thoughts on anything.
I'm sure this has been a crazy week for you because you really crammed for this. You watched two
Yeah.
movies last night and then one this morning.
I did, yes. It was a lot of 2 movies a night for some of the nights
Mhm.
just because I waited a little bit late, but I'm actually glad I did it the way I did it. You spread it out more, I believe, but I wanted to really experience this in the month of St. Patrick's Day, so, get the freaking St. Patty's Day feel, top of the morning to you. That's what I was trying to be absorbed in that feeling, and I think I accomplished my goal.
Excellent. Yeah, I was worried that you would get to the halfway point and I would get a text from you saying, "All right, I'm out. I can't do this."
If I was my friend Kat, yes, my friend Kat
Mhm.
from Kat's Novel Adventures, check out her channel down below. She's not a huge fan of all the Leprechaun movies. She likes the first one, but she, for a little project we were doing together a couple
Mhm.
of years ago, watched Leprechaun in the Hood, and it made her want to scrub her eyes out. So I am excited to talk about it, and we'll see if I agree with Kat or if I disagree when we get to the
Absolutely.
rankings and where it falls.
Excellent.
All right, so guys, just to give you an overview before we jump in, what Nathan and I are going to do is rank the series. We're going from least favorite, or what we consider to be the worst movie in the franchise, to our favorite, aka what we think is the best movie in the franchise. And of course, there's probably different reasons for our rankings. It's subjective, like all things in life. So we'll get a chance to maybe explain a little bit here and there as we go through the rankings, but it's really not talking about what each movie is about. It's more talking about our opinions and where each movie falls from, in our opinion, worst to best. All right, so we should begin with everything. Nathan said I should go first. Is that cool,
Yeah,
Nathan?
can you kick it off with your least favorite Leprechaun movie?
I have a feeling we're going to agree, but we'll shortly find out. My least favorite is definitely Leprechaun Origins because it's horrible. It shouldn't even be included in the franchise, in my opinion. I hated the way it was shot. Freaking so jumpy. It was trying to be something that the Leprechaun series is not. And I guess you could admire that. Oh, they're trying to do something different. I understand that, but I just didn't think it worked well. And I'm looking for a freaking rhyming, joking leprechaun, not this weirdo creature with like predator like vision that we get like this leprechaun cam. I don't even know what else you could call it. I didn't like it. Easily my least favorite. Like it wasn't even close. Go ahead with your thoughts on your least favorite.
Oh, we are absolutely in sync so far.
I thought
Leprechaun
so.
Origins is my least favorite. Yeah, I didn't like this at all. So yeah, it's not related to any of the Leprechaun movies that came before it. It was made by Lionsgate and WWE Studios, which is not a very reassuring sign for quality.
No.
And I tried to go in with an open mind, but right from when this movie was announced, I was very upset because we don't get Warwick Davis. Instead, we get the actor who was Hornswoggle in WWE. And at this point, I had stopped watching wrestling. Every now and then, I would check in again. And so I was familiar with the character of Hornswoggle, and it just really rubbed me the wrong way. I thought it was just cheap and insulting and it's kind of
Well, you don't even
depressing.
really see
Oh yeah.
him very much
Oh
even.
no. Yeah, but he's on the yeah, his name is on the poster
Yeah,
starring.
which is odd. It's just a weird complete thing. And the fact
Yeah,
that it's not Warwick Davis also rubbed me the wrong way because I know that this is the first one where he's not the role of Leprechaun and it just
yeah,
feels off because of
yeah.
that.
I'm glad he wasn't trying to do a Warwick impression because that would have made it so much worse. But yeah, I thought the first scene was okay because it looks like a big Hollywood production. It's like polished and slick. We get good locations and set design. But man, after that, once we were introduced to these characters, it goes so downhill. And it's like I've never, very few films have this poor character development. So we have these American tourists that are vacationing in Ireland. They want to go off the beaten path to see something that's not in the traditional tourist books. And usually this is a good sign for suspense. This is the formula that usually works, but you don't care about these people at all. So the only thing we know about them is that one of the girls, it's been her lifelong dream to be a history major ever since she was like 2 years old or something. And now she's having second thoughts and, ooh, like, we supposed to care about this?
I know it's barely really touched upon, and there's definitely tension between her and her boyfriend in the film as well, obviously, because he's like, "Oh, you're not gonna do what you wanted to do and be a history major? Oh, you might go to school near me?" Like, and she's like, "Aren't you happy about that?" Later in the film, and he's like, "Oh," and then it's really never explored further after that.
No, we don't
So
get any backstory as to why the townspeople had this bargain with this creature. It's never really explained at all. Yeah, the Leprechaun POV shots are really stupid, but so do the shots when we actually see him. I kept a notepad with me throughout the film, and for all the other films, I was scribbling notes like crazy. But for this one, I was so uninterested. I had just one note. I wrote down one thing: why is Lep always blurry? So he doesn't look like a traditional leprechaun in the sense he's more like a cave creature from The Descent
yes, exactly.
that's always
Yes.
out of focus.
I
And
thought of The Descent as well. I was like, it's like
mhm,
they're trying to replicate that creature from The Descent, but yeah, I
yeah,
didn't think it worked.
no, neither did the shaky cam and the choppy editing and the jump scares. And there's only one connection to the other films, and that's when one character says at the end, "Fuck you, Lucky Charms."
Yep.
That's it. The director said he hated all of the Leprechaun movies before, and so he wanted to do something totally different, make it scary and more grounded in reality or something.
No
But
wonder it was so bad if he hated
yeah,
all the other movies. I guess that's why he veered so far away from like the formula of all the other movies, because they definitely do follow a formula for the most part for
mhm.
all of the Leprechaun movies besides Origins. Origins is less, it feels like a different movie, like from a
Oh yeah,
different franchise.
no, it should not be called Leprechaun at all.
Agree. So I am glad we're on the same page, but it'll be interesting if we stay on the same page.
I doubt it. Let's hear your number 7.
Okay. You're making me go first on all of these. My number 7 is, and I didn't hate this one, but Leprechaun Back to the Hood. I actually didn't mind it. I didn't dislike it. It's like I got to put one, as the next one on the list, and it's this one. I did think it had some good kills. I think a lot of the Leprechaun movies besides Origins has some great kills. So there's really nothing to complain in the kills area. In fact, I actually think Leprechaun in the Hood has not as great of kills as Back to the Hood, which is funny because I'm putting this one lower down, but I just, in terms of the acting, I wasn't as into it as Leprechaun in the Hood. I thought Back to the Hood, I didn't like the characters as much. That's really like the only reason it's here. The
Mhm.
characters just did not do it for me. I mean, you had Ice-T in
Yeah.
Leprechaun in the Hood, which I think raises it. And that's why this one's, comes before that one for me. And that's why this one, I like it a little bit less.
Yeah, that's fair. I have a controversial opinion for the next one.
Oh gosh.
On paper, I should love this movie. I keep revisiting it every 5 years because it's like this should be one of my favorites. It's so bonkers and weird, and I love bonkers and weird. But every time I watch this movie, I never have a good time. I never laugh, and I just want it to be over. And so my number 7, sorry guys, Leprechaun 4 in space.
I knew you were gonna say that as when you started describing it like
Yeah,
on paper, it would be so appealing to you, but I
yeah,
understand. It is a little weird. And it is trying very hard. It
very
is
hard.
trying hard.
And this is from 1996. Another reason why I should like it is because it was directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, who is a fantastic filmmaker, and he directed Part 3. But yeah, in this one, it takes place in space. The leprechaun kidnaps a princess named Zarina so that he can be king of her planet. He tempts her with all his gold and riches, and Meanwhile, we get some space marines who are being instructed by a mad scientist who's half robot, and he's trying to like find a way to regenerate his body. And the Leprechaun is one of the most normal things about this movie. Everything is he's having to compete against so much, and it's a kind of movie where you could tell they didn't turn down any ideas. So like, space princess, giant leprechaun, Sarge with a large metal plate, Sergeant Drag, giant spider mutant, mad scientist who's half robot. Yes, let's do it all. And in the most pointless nudity you'll ever see.
Oh my god, I
Yeah.
know. I know. I was
That's
like,
fine.
why? And they're like, oh, her showing her boobs is like an ominous thing. Like, sure, yeah,
The kiss of
okay.
death in her home planet.
Yeah.
And I think for the first time in the series, we get not a single likable character. And on this latest rewatch, I realized it was over 20 minutes before I even cracked a smile. And that was when the TV in the background started to move while one of the mad scientist henchmen is kind of fondling the princess. So so the robot is moving his TV to like show disapproval. So that part was funny. Dr. Mittenheim kind of carries the movie on his shoulders. I think he's the only part that really works. I thought his character was a lot of fun, and also I liked it when one of the characters gets contaminated, and within seconds he turns into a skeleton. So that was pretty cool. There were some really dull kill scenes, especially compared to the previous entries. I know this one had a much smaller budget, I'm assuming. But yeah, one character just falls to her death off screen. Another one is crushed by a large contraption, also off screen. It's got some of the worst computer graphics you'll ever see.
I thought that was on purpose, though.
No, they wanted to make it look a lot better. Like
They did? I thought they were like, oh, it's gonna look so funny and cheesy with this bad CGI.
This is 1996. They didn't have a lot.
Oh, okay.
So they were very limited in what they could do. The only kill scene that is really awesome is when the leprechaun throws a plate at somebody, and it's very Looney Tunes-esque. But yeah, I don't think a lot of the jokes just fall completely flat, and it's kind of sad. I just think that like the comedic scenes just come across as desperate, especially when they have to compete against so much heavy baggage in terms of the lame characters and the bizarre set pieces and the nonsensical plot. So I appreciate this movie for being so creative and bizarre, but I've never been able to get any enjoyment out of it. And I thought that, this would be, when we were doing this, I thought it would have been in my top 5 at least, but no, I didn't. Maybe the next 5 years from now, I'll go back and it'll finally click with me.
I understand your reasoning, and this brings me to my next one on my list, which is Leprechaun 4 in Space. For me, Leprechaun in Space, although I'm putting it, closer to best on my list than Back to the Hood, I actually enjoyed Back to the Hood's story more than Leprechaun in Space. But the reason Leprechaun in Space is a little bit better, in my opinion, is because I agree with a lot of your criticisms. However, the leprechaun coming out of the dude's dick, hell yeah, that makes me laugh. Like, I don't know why that gets me. Sometimes penis humor, it gets me. Like when a dude's dick's getting like freaking destroyed, I'm like, yes, yes. So that to me, I was already like, this is
makes me cringe.
Well, that's the point. And that's why I'm like, yes. I don't know. It made me laugh. So really, that scene and the scene with the plate, I really liked a lot. And that the leprechaun was still kind of talking very whimsically in rhyme at times. Whereas Back to the Hood, he actually dropped his rhyming scheme. And so that is why Leprechaun in Space is just above it. But I could have probably reversed it and it would have been, fine. It's just like we're talking about little inches of difference for me.
Oh yeah. A few of these, like depending on the day, I could easily switch them out. They're very close in terms of quality.
Exactly. So Leprechaun in Space, not my favorite. I'm on a lot of the same page as you, but I can appreciate some of the fun, corny things, but there was a lot of things that fell flat, especially with that over-the-top scientist guy who turns into a spider. I'm like, what the hell?
Mitten Spider is a really cool practical effect. I thought it looked really good.
I didn't have any problem with the look. I just thought it was a lot going on, especially to compete with Leprechaun as the villain of the film. It kind of muddied the waters in my opinion a tiny bit, but I had fun with it. It's not like I hated it. Like, to me, if I were to give this one a star rating, it would be a 3. Would I
Mhm.
ever need to watch it consistently like some of the other films I might want to do? No, no. Like, once in a blue moon would be fine.
Yeah, they missed a huge opportunity. They could have had giant leprechaun versus the mitten spider. That would have been a scene for the ages, but
Yes.
I don't know why they didn't
No, they
complete
just
it
had
because
him like going through a random compartment looking for the regular sized dude. That was
yeah.
a waste of him being a giant. Like, yes, I totally agree with you. It could have been like a monster showdown. And it should have
Mhm.
been a monster showdown. Like you said, missed opportunity.
My number 6 is Leprechaun Returns from 2018. This is the last entry in the series. This was made for the Sci-Fi Channel. It's from the same director as The Void, which is a horror film I thought was really good. Once again, Warwick is not in this one, but at least it still feels like a Leprechaun movie. It's a direct sequel to the original, and so we are back to North Dakota in the farmhouse, and it's being turned into a sorority for sustainable green living, and so they're trying to get it off the grid and have it run on solar power. And so we're getting intelligent college students. It's got a pretty groovy opening with a guttural scream from the leprechaun as he falls into the well with his face melting off. I thought that was a really good effect. And we're introduced to Lila, and she plays the daughter of Jennifer Aniston's character. And it's revealed that Jennifer Aniston's character Tori went through some mental issues, hardly ever went outside in the last years of her life, and then died of cancer a year ago. And I think what I think my favorite thing about this movie is that we get to see the return of Mark Holton as Ozzy. I thought it was lovely to see him again. I really like this actor, and so I think my biggest laugh came in the beginning when Lila is needing a ride at the bus stop, and she looks up taxi service Devil's Lake, and then ends up calling Ozzy. It's easily the bloodiest entry of the Leprechaun franchise. We get to see some really gnarly deaths. My favorite being one that involved a mailbox.
I was gonna guess that was your favorite kill. It was my favorite, but then the solar panel one was
Oh
pretty
yeah,
great.
we get to see somebody completely split in half from a solar panel. We get to see a man's stomach bursting open. Yeah, lots of blood. Also, lots of lame jump scares and tons of meta humor. And it's a very self-aware film, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The new guy playing the leprechaun's okay. Many of his lines are pretty cringeworthy. Killing is a key to good health, and health means finding my wealth. It's like, what?
I like that. Like, I was like, oh, he's back to his little rhyme, and I liked that
Yeah.
he got the rhyming back.
Yeah, he definitely got better as the film went along, I felt. And so he definitely ingratiated himself with me. I liked the way the characters, their first instinct when they see him is to get a selfie taken with him. That made me laugh every time.
Me too.
Yeah, there are references to Werner Herzog and even Hammer Time. And at one point, the leprechaun's upset because one of the girls doesn't know what a Walkman is. So, yeah, it definitely has some cute moments. So yeah,
That would
I gave
upset
it.
me too, as someone who loves the 80s and 90s. Like, what are you talking about? You don't know what a Walkman is.
Yeah.
I'm with you,
So
Leprechaun.
three stars for me.
This might shock you a little bit. Next up is Leprechaun 3 for me, of course, which takes place in Vegas. It's not my favorite, however, it does have some of my favorite kills. It definitely has a great kill with the woman wanting to be sexy, and then basically her ass, her face, and her boobs explode, and it's incredible. So honestly, I could switch this around with some of the other movies on my list because I do like this one, but I think I'm a little biased and I just don't like Vegas. Maybe that's it, and that's why. But him in Vegas is a lot of fun. Like I said, some of these it was hard to put in a position on this list because it's not like I hate it. It's just not my favorite. And I think it's because of the Vegas element. All right, well, that's all I have to say about that one. We'll get into it further whenever it comes up for you, but you go ahead and tell me what's next on your list.
Number 5 for me is Leprechaun in the Hood from 2000. Unlike Part 4, where I didn't recognize a single soul, as opposed, I mean, there's one guy that looked a lot like Sylvester Stallone in Part 4. So
There
that
was?
nice.
I thought he was his son or something.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
looks so much like him. Yeah.
uncanny. So it was refreshing for this one. I mean, because right off the bat we get Ice-T, who has infinite charisma. Usually it's the Leprechaun who can do bizarre and nonsensical sight gags, but Ice-T is able to pull a wide variety of weapons out of his fro. And
I bet.
that was cute. Yeah, it's like if it was a Naked Gun movie. But yeah, I thought the whole opening in the underground subway tunnel was awesome. It's a really good set piece. It's just a very fun cast all around.
Mhm.
One actor I want to highlight is his name is Dan Martin. He played Jackie D, who was a store owner, and he looks so familiar. So I had to look him up. And yeah, he was in a Tales from the Crypt episode I really liked. He was in Casualties of War, Malcolm in the Middle. He's also been in 218 episodes of both of our favorite show, and that is The Bold and the Beautiful. I'm sure. Yeah, we get references to Judge Judy and Tony Robbins in this one. I like how Leprechaun is attracted to the curious aroma of Mary Jane. It also made me want to listen to the band Placebo when Lep says something along the lines as a friend in need's a friend indeed, a friend with weed is better, something like that. We're even treated to a 4-leaf clover joint at the end, so that was good. One of my favorite recurring things about the series that I love is whenever the Leprechaun's on fire, just like the screams he makes, it fills me with joy. It's such a wonderful sound. And yeah, so this one really delivers the goods. We also get a Coolio cameo here. And there's so much talk about going to Vegas, so I thought we might get a reunion in Vegas, but that didn't happen. There's a really funny dream sequence with the blind mother and Leprechaun. The editing is really choppy and shoddy. Scenes just kind of end with no payoff, and so it's hard to get a good flow going. Making the matters worst for me are all the music performances.
They're so bad.
The
music.
songs are terrible.
Yeah.
And it just seems like they exist to pad out the runtime. I kind of wish that we could hear the actual flute, because it would have been nice to hear an actual musical instrument as opposed to what we get in these stupid songs. I did like the Leprechaun for Dummies book.
Yes.
We get a couple good gore scenes, but also some really unimaginative deaths. They were originally going to make this movie into it was originally going to be Leprechaun in the White House, and my heart aches for what could have been with that delicious premise. But not a bad movie. It was fun. 3 stars for me.
Next for me, Leprechaun Returns. I actually was surprised. I thought this was going to be complete shit. Pardon my French. I didn't have high hopes going in, and maybe that's why it's landing, closer to best on my list, because it just surprised me. I thought I was really going to just dislike it, and I'm glad I liked it more than I thought. I thought that without Warwick Davis, it was going to be an atrocity, but I thought the actor they got did a really good job, because, it's hard to follow up Warwick Davis's performance, and I was pleasantly surprised. I liked that it went back to the rhyming. I liked the little connections to the first film. I thought that's the most continuity we get in the entire series of movies, is what Returns does. Otherwise, there is absolutely no continuity. Like, all of a sudden, the Leprechaun's back at the beginning of each film, and it's never explained how or why. At least in Returns, we do get a little bit of continuity, and I do like that. I wasn't enamored with all the college girls, but it was fun. It works for a modern audience. It made it a little bit creepy with the extra gory kills. So to me, it updated Leprechaun in at least a honorable way, I should say. Overall, it's not perfect. I give it like a 3.5 star rating.
Nice. Number 4 for me, I'm very surprised that this is number 4. I kind of had to look at my list again to make sure that, because it doesn't look like it belongs here. But Leprechaun Back to the Hood is my number 4. It turned out to be much better than I remembered. It really stands out in the series because, the Leprechaun isn't as jovial and jokey, doesn't do any rhyming. He's more demonic, more serious, and originally this movie was going to take place in spring break with a bunch of rich white yuppies, but then the producers noticed how much money In the Hood made in terms of video sales, and so they decided, all right, let's just go back. And so the screenwriter was forced to pretty much start from scratch and make this movie. It's got a pretty sweet intro. And it's got a book of legends opening up to a page that says chapter 6. And what I like about this is that like every movie after the first one is able to kind of reinvent the rules in terms of mythology, like what you were saying earlier. It starts out with a preacher sending the leprechaun to hell with a knife and a fermented clover drink. And this is the most desperate and powerless we've ever seen Warwick Davis's character, because he's actually begging for mercy. And it's kind of like a refreshing change from the norm. At one point in this movie, somebody calls a guy out for drinking Kool-Aid, and he responds with, "It's Powerade, you illiterate motherfucker."
Yeah, I did laugh at that.
Yeah, the clumsy edits from the previous entry still remain, but so does the creepy and stylish tunnel, and so it's an equal trade-off. The stoned leprechaun is adorable, especially when he has the giggles. I love the way he enters the room right after someone takes a big bong rip, and so his guy just assumes that the weed is working, and it's just there's also some really good comedic timing also in the kitchen where the leprechaun is stoned, and so is the other guy who's making a sandwich. And they don't really notice each other. So that was funny. For the first time ever, we get to see what the leprechaun's feet look like. He also has a different wardrobe. So yeah, they're trying new things. The leprechaun is more vicious and animalistic this time around. There's not as much like elaborate magic tricks. Instead, we just get some good old fashioned brawling. But he's still very powerful because he can rip a guy's leg off.
I love the leg scene. I think the leg scene from Back to the Hood is better than anything in terms of kill wise in Leprechaun in the Hood. But again, I just didn't like the plot of Back to the Hood as much. That's all. Yeah,
that's fair. There are some fun gags with motorbikes. That was good. And one of the actors, his name is Paige Kennedy. I want to highlight him. He kind of plays the goofball of the group. And he's been in a ton of things, but I recognized him from the show Weeds. Yeah, he plays a character called U-Turn, and he was in a lot of episodes. So I would give Leprechaun back to number 2, the THA Hood, 3.5 stars.
Yay! See, like, even going back to where I put Leprechaun Back to the Hood on my list, which was second to last or second to worst, I really don't think it's that bad. Like, to me, it's still a 3-star movie, so we're very close on that one too.
Maybe we can turn Kat around.
I don't think we will ever turn Kat around, and that brings me to my number 3, which is Leprechaun in the Hood. Kat, she freaking destroyed it. I'm gonna have to freaking link my chat with Kat down below for anyone who hasn't seen it, and I might even insert an edit here where I can give Kat the chance to say her piece. She did not like it. She even said, and I quote, "I have to scrub my eyes after seeing it." I think it was all the cursing. I thought she might have thought that was a little gratuitous, like too much, just there to be edgy, and she did not like that. And I understand, but I will let Kat say her thoughts, and then I will continue with mine. So take it away, Kat.
I mean, this is one of the quotes that the leprechaun says, okay?
Okay, I can't wait.
A friend with weed is a friend indeed, but a friend with a gold is worth more, I'm told. I mean, it's like, and just the hoochie mamas. And I mean, I'm just going to say, they just kind of went overboard, with, I don't know. I've seen other movies that have kind of been like spoofs or, horror. Like, for example, Tales from the Hood, which was, I think, directed or even written by Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Okay. I enjoyed that one totally. I mean, Snoop Dogg was in it and everything, and it was really creepy. But it's like, I don't know. I could not. I mean, about the craziest thing, though, is if you can get through the movie till the end, there is a rap song. The Leprechaun raps at the end in a bar with the hoochie mamas.
I'm sorry.
It is the craziest thing.
I almost want to see it now for the rap.
Well, I this is what I would tell you to do, Kelsi. I would say go ahead, watch it, fast forward all the way to the end just so you can see him rap.
So that was Kat's thoughts, and I just think it's so funny that it's so close to being like, it's in my top 3 essentially of my favorites. I I was just joking about this with Kat the other day because she just came over and we exchanged late birthday gifts. And we were sitting at my kitchen table and I said, "You know which Leprechaun movie I have to watch next?" And she said, "What?" I said, "Leprechaun in the Hood." And again, I actually really like Back to the Hood with a THA, like you said, a lot. But the reason this one's ahead of it is because I love Ice-T, love that he brings the baseball bat out. And this is one of the only times in the series that I laughed out loud. It's very hard. I smile and smirk a lot at movies, but I have a very odd sense of humor. So it takes a lot for a movie specifically to make me laugh out loud, like a big chuckle. This one did because, and it's not even that funny. It's that scene where the 3 guys are like hiding in the upstairs of the church. They're in the room and they're like, "Okay, we got this, right? Yeah, like and they do this to each other and they're going down the like,
oh yeah.
And then then they act, so the leprechaun just happens to be next to them and they go like this and then they're like, "Wait a second." They look over and it's the leprechaun and they're like, "Ah!"
Yeah.
And they all just scream and I
like that
laughed out loud. I don't know. That to me, I don't know why that made me laugh out loud more than anything else. Like you would think that the pancake head from, Leprechaun 4 would make me laugh out loud. That made me smirk, but it didn't make me laugh out loud. Like it felt like Home Alone humor in that moment to me, or Home Alone 2 humor with Marv as a skeleton kind of thing.
I totally agree.
So I love that part specifically. Why does that make it so elevated for me? I don't know. But I just had such a good time and I actually thought it had some feeling to the plot, like some heart, some depth, and I was very surprised by that. I thought it was just going to be terrible. I thought the premise was very interesting. Even Back to the Hood had some heart, but going back to Leprechaun in the Hood, which is above Leprechaun Back to the Hood for me. In the Hood, I just thought that the plot of the magic flute getting people what they want was a very interesting premise, another interesting take. And although I complained about no continuity in any of the other movies in the franchise, it is a good opportunity to see different things done with Leprechaun and his weaknesses, his strengths, and his origins and what he considers to be most important. Like it was like the flute for him in the Hood was almost just as important as his gold, as the rest of his gold. Mm-hmm. Like he wanted that damn flute back. And I just thought that was interesting. I don't know. It surprised me. Maybe it surprised me because I was expecting to loathe it from what Kat had said. So it was like my expectations were low. But then when I saw it, I was like, how does she not like this? Like there's not even any nudity. I don't think there is. I don't recall there being nudity in that one. If there is, it's minimal. It's not like the other iterations.
I know there are lots of scantily clad women at the end because the leprechaun kind of possesses 3 of them.
Yeah, but like I didn't think they were that bad. They were like, we're gonna rap and dance at the end. It was great.
Oh yeah, anyway. I like the effect with the glowing eyes too.
I did like that as well. So the music, I agree with you. Terrible, horrible, missed opportunity to do some like cheesy raps that actually sounded kind of good. Like, the baddie rap from Fern Gully, like Robin Williams rapping in the movie Fern Gully. It could have been something fun like that, but they dropped the ball.
All about, positivity, and it's just kind of lame.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you said. It's kind of nice how you root for these characters because they are trying to get out of a terrible situation, and they kind of make this Faustian deal, and in both of the Hood entries.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you that the characters in the first one, Back to the Hood, or I'm sorry, the first one, To the Hood, are more fleshed out.
It's so hard when you're talking about both of them in a row. You're like in the Hood, and then you got to separate it from Back to the Hood. So it's hard to keep them separate. But what is your number 3?
I am going all the way back to 1992. My number 3 is the first Leprechaun movie. This came out when I was, I think, 10. So it came out at just the right time for me because it's a good horror comedy. I think it's like a 50-50 ratio with horror and comedy in this one. This is the first time Warwick Davis has ever played a villainous character. And God, he is so good in these movies. He is a brilliant actor. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside just watching him. He's just, everything he does is just perfect. It's just, I like the way he reacts to things. and the way his sense of humor, and when he laughs at the misfortunes of others, just the way he's got this like it's like, I'll quote Seinfeld, unbridled enthusiasm.
Yes.
It's kind of like, in this movie it was intended to be kind of like a live action Scooby-Doo movie with the PG-13 rating, and I think test audiences indicated that they wanted more blood, more gore, and so they kind of reshot some things. It takes place in North Dakota. Yeah, I rented this when it came out and liked it a lot. I remember I had a crush on Jennifer Aniston at the time because she was in a show I liked called The Edge. It was on Fox. It was a sketch comedy show that also had Wayne Knight from Seinfeld and Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants, and Julie Brown was also in it. Yeah, very funny show, but yeah, I love Jennifer Aniston. And there's a character in Leprechaun named Nathan. And I remember there's one part of the movie where she calls that Nathan, and I remember I rewound it so I can watch it.
Oh, that's cute.
There's also there's a scene in a coin store where the leprechaun. I never understood what he was saying. I always thought he was saying, "That's your boner. That's your boner." I was like, that doesn't make any sense, but I don't know what else he's saying, and it didn't. I was able to hear it this time, this rewatch. I guess it's because I now have it on Blu-ray with really good quality. But he's saying bad shop owner, bad shop owner.
Oh, that's your boner. I would have preferred it be that line because it's hilarious, but it's also nonsensical. So I guess what it really is makes more sense.
Yeah. Mark Holton is great. Like I said before, you may remember him playing Francis from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I do, yes.
There's a part in the movie where he spills paint on himself, so he blew himself. For all you Arrested Development fans out there. I also love the part where the cop pulls over the leprechaun. If there's a flaw in this movie, it is the farmhouse. I think it's a really boring location. The lighting is awful. It's just not a very fun place to be. So whenever they go outside, it's nice. Like, oh yeah, I love it when Nathan steps in the bear trap and just the way the leprechaun kind of taunts him and just laughs at him. And later in the movie, he runs by him and kind of kicks his leg and says, "How's your leg?" From the previous part.
Yeah.
So I thought that was good. And yeah, it's just Leprechaun has so much like unrestrained glee in these movies, and I love that a lot. And we get a sign of things to come in this series when the door closes on the leprechaun's hand and it falls off and then reattaches itself. So this is a lot of really great, lots of great practical effects here.
Agree.
So yeah, I think this movie is a lot of fun, and yeah, love the characters, and it's got a really good flow to it. I enjoyed it a lot. I would give it 4 stars.
All right, so now we come to my number 2, and it's Leprechaun 2. And I really like it. It's super solid. I actually think it's got better pacing than Leprechaun 1. However, there are some things that I'll talk about. Obviously, there's one movie I've not named. So there's one movie that's going to be my favorite. I will talk about why that movie beats this movie, but really, it's a toss-up. It's so close. Leprechaun 2 could have taken the number 1 spot because I do think overall, I think the story's a little bit better, a little bit tighter. The kills are really creative and fun, especially, gosh, this is one of my favorite parts of any of the movies, is when that guy...
Jack Klompus from Seinfeld.
Yes. Jack Klompus, he is pregnant with freaking a boatload of gold. The leprechaun has to give him a C-section, essentially, to get the flippin' pot of gold out. And I thought that was so funny. And I loved that. That made me smile. Also, death by boobs, essentially, or what someone thinks are boobs. That was
one of the best deaths in the whole series, for sure.
Agree. That death, like, really... I was like, this is a great death. It might be one of the best deaths. There's a lot of great things about 2, but there's certain reasons that it's not number 1, but so close. I would give it a 4.
All right. So my number 2 is also Leprechaun 2 from 1994. The IMDb synopsis says, on his 1000th birthday, an evil leprechaun selects the descendant of one of his slaves to have as his bride, leaving it up to the girl's boyfriend to save her. So yeah, I think this movie is just a blast from start to finish. After a opening scene in Ireland, we move on to Los Angeles. And I always like it when we see theater marquees in movies. And this time, in this one, we get to see a theater showing Sister Act 2. And let's see here. Yeah, I think the leads in this movie are very strong. We get to see a lot of character actors in Leprechaun 2. There's a great scene with a dark side tour, and two of the passengers are played by Kimmy Robertson from Twin Peaks and the icon Clint Howard. Oh, we also get to see an actor who plays a homeless man. He's the same homeless man from The Blob, the 80s remake.
Oh,
An absolute classic. I think my favorite scene, maybe in the whole franchise, takes place at a bar where Jack Klompus, Sandy Barron, kind of challenges the Leprechaun to a drinking contest, and then Leprechaun is kind of coerced into doing it, and he says, "Drink what you want, drink what you're able. If you're drinking with me, you'll be under the table." And then we learn that when the Leprechaun is drunk or hungover, his powers are not as effective. He tries to attack somebody with an ashtray, and the ashtray just kind of clumsily floats along while the Leprechaun tries to stay focused, but he's so dizzy. And late in the next scene, he tries to sober up in an espresso bar, and it's fantastic. I love it when just like normal people interact with the Leprechaun, and like there's no intention on killing, but it's just they often kind of poke fun at the Leprechaun and insult him and anger him, and so they get what they deserve.
Yeah, death by steam. It was great. It was
Yeah.
wonderful. Also, another thing about Leprechaun 2 that I forgot to shout out was a wonderful, funny, I guess maybe not even purposefully funny, but back in the beginning of the film when they're still in Ireland, and the guy who just he thinks he's about to be freed from Leprechaun's, side, like, oh, I want to be free. He runs off, and then Leprechaun kills him. The girl Leprechaun was eyeing for his bride, runs up and finds the guy dead, and is like, oh! And then it freeze frames on her like screaming face, and it is hilarious and amazing.
A great way to introduce the title credit.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I just wanted to shout that scene out because I loved that. I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, I like that. I like that too. I also like it when the Leprechaun drinks whiskey, and he is very upset that it's blended Canadian. Because to
Yes.
him, the only whiskey is Irish whiskey. So I think it's cute how he's so patriotic. Yeah, I think this is superior to part one in every way, and really great practical effects. I'm glad you highlighted I want your gold, all your gold. And
It's
so
like, dude, you shouldn't have been so greedy. Be careful what you wish for. That's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, didn't you learn anything from The Simpsons when Homer made the wish about the turkey sandwich? He's like, I don't want any zombie sandwiches. I don't want to turn into a sandwich myself.
Yes. So I know you said that this film is better than the original, the first installment. However, I do have the first installment as my number one, my favorite, the best from my list of worst to best. It is my best, but it's because I do agree with you that 2 is probably the superior film in terms of, like I said earlier, the pacing and all this other stuff. You could keep going on and on. However, I've got a soft spot for number 1, the original Leprechaun, because it's just so fun. It immediately captured me. It's the first one I ever saw. I watched it on St. Patrick's Day a couple of years ago, and I just fell in love with it. And it actually was one of the few movies that made Paul laugh out loud at how ridiculous some parts were. And I think I'm super biased because someone gets pogoed to death, and
Yeah.
I love pogo sticks. Like I grew up, I was like obsessed with pogo sticks. I had like a mini pogo stick that was like half green, half pink. It's kind of like a famous type of pogo stick that like a lot of kids in the 90s had. So anyway, I like pogo sticks, and someone gets pogoed to death. Check, love it. That's one of the main reasons why it's number 1, but also literally squealed with delight when he's in his little car with the fork on the end and he plows into the big truck. Everyone's in it and they go tumbling, and it's barely a tap, and they
Yeah, I know.
tumble. I did laugh out loud for that, and because of that and those other things that just really have a special place in my heart just because of nostalgia, I think that's why it's my favorite. So that was my number 1. I know what your number 1 is just from process of elimination, but enlighten us, tell us, officially make it official. That's redundant, but do it. Tell us what your number 1 is.
I wish this movie had a different title. I wish it could be called Leprechaun Takes Las Vegas or something like that.
Yeah.
Because Leprechaun 3 is a boring title for a movie this creative. This is actually Warwick Davis's favorite Leprechaun movie, and it is my favorite as well. we get to learn more of the Leprechaun's mythology with a CD-ROM and a pawn shop. The cult movie director Brian Trenchard Smith, his previous film to this was Night of the Demons 2, which I also loved, and he brought along 4 of its cast members to provide cameos in the casino scenes. So it's great to see them. Just seeing the Leprechaun walk around Vegas and reacting to the hustle and bustle is pure delight for me, because he loves it. I loved the scene with him and Elvis. They have a really cute interplay together.
That was funny. That made me smile.
Yeah, every character is so much fun. Even characters that just have a single scene, everyone makes the most of their time. I really love Mitch, the casino owner, is great, and so are the henchmen. They're trying to get money from him. Like every time they're on screen is funny. I think in this latest rewatch, the part that made me laugh the most is when the Leprechaun turns one of those henchmen into a slot machine.
Oh my God, yes.
It's not a death scene. It's just a practical joke because he's fine afterwards.
Yeah, like he's still around making jokes afterwards and saying random things. Yeah, I love that too. That was a nice little touch.
Yeah, and there's just like a certain like spark in Leprechaun's eyes in this movie that he's just having such a blast, and he comes up with these elaborate ways to manipulate people, and the way he just reacts to it and laughs, it makes me laugh. We get Warwick Dick. He gets to do a lot with this movie. He gets to be a televangelist, a psychic, a lawyer, because there's a part where he kind of infects the TV.
Yeah.
And so he gets to play off a lot of his acting chops, and that is hilarious. Carolyn Williams, I want to highlight. She plays one of the workers at the casino. You might know her from Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. She was Stretch, and she goes to a lot of horror conventions, and she's a total sweetheart. I also love the character who played Fazio, the corny magician. He's played by John DeMito. He kind of reminded me of the wrestler Disco Inferno for some reason. He's got like a lot of that, I guess because of his appearance and that lovable heel demeanor. His scenes are hilarious. I think that maybe, if not my favorite, my second favorite death scene involves a chainsaw at the end of this movie. It's quite funny. And another part that made me laugh a lot is when the guy who gets turned into a slot machine, when he sees Leprechaun again later in the movie, he kind of like, "Oh, you again from the craps table? You really ought to see a dermatologist or something."
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I also like Scott's potato obsession. We learn that the potato is the Leprechaun's favorite food. The waitress thinks that Scott is quoting White Zombie for some reason. It's a really creative and witty script all around. And there's some good scenes in the hospital, really funny sight gags with when Scott's getting tested.
Yes.
And let's see, anything else? Oh yeah, at the time of its release, Leprechaun 3 was the highest selling independent direct-to-video film of 1995.
Oh.
And it was mostly shot in the Ambassador Hotel, which is where Robert Kennedy was assassinated. So it's a very historic place, reportedly haunted. And they were only actually in Vegas for one night. And they didn't have the permits to film. And so they would just kind of, shoot a scene here and get the hell out before anyone notices. And of course, with Warwick Davis returning to these movies, he didn't have to, but he kind of felt a connection to this character, and he felt like he owed it to the fans. But it could not have been fun to get all this makeup every day. And so the only constants in these first 6 entries are Warwick Davis and Gabe Bartalos, who is a genius, and he provided all the makeup effects and a lot of the practical effects. And so he and Warwick Davis spent a lot of time together and developed this friendship. And so when Gabe Bartalos went on to direct 2 films of his own, Skin Deep, which is actually in a book I just put out called Horror Galore, and it's about the best hidden gem horror films. And Skin Deep, I think, is a masterpiece. And Warwick Davis plays a character in that movie called Plates, and he gets to attack people with plates. But it's absolutely bonkers and very creative. And he was also in Saint Bernard. And for the longest time, Leprechaun 2 is my favorite, but I'm going to move Leprechaun 3 up to the top position here. Both 2 and 3 get 4.5 stars. I think they're both I think they're two of the funniest horror movies you could ever watch.
Yeah, I just love this franchise for embracing the comedy, embracing just the fun of it, the theme of it. And because, not every horror movie is like that. Some take themselves too seriously. Like, that's what I think happened with Leprechaun Origins. I really hated that one. But otherwise, honestly, besides Origins, I truly loved watching all the other films, and I'm very glad that I finally sat down and did watch all of the others besides the first one, which I had already seen. So I think this was a successful project. Thank you for asking to do this and convincing me, because who knows how long it would have taken me to get to all the Leprechaun movies.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're finally schooled in this remarkable franchise, and that we're still friends. You don't hate me for making you do this.
Oh no, no! I'm not. I'm not Kat, who really did hate Leprechaun in the Hood. And funnily enough, that was my number 3, which I think is going to blow her away. It's going to knock her socks off, and she's going to be like, "What?" She's going to be puzzled. Maybe our friendship, me and her, it's in danger because of how much I enjoyed Leprechaun in the Hood. But no, I'm pretty sure it'll be fine.
If you ever want to do another ranking video, please let me know, because this was a lot of fun for me. And it's always a joy talking
for appearing. And I do want to say, if anyone is curious about Nathan's books, he did mention Horror Galore. I will link his Amazon links for his books below. And just note that if you have Kindle Unlimited, Horror Galore is on Kindle Unlimited, so you can use that if you have that service to read it, and you could find some wonderful horror movie gems by checking it out. And if you do check out that book or any of Nathan's other books, please leave a review. That does help authors quite a bit. And before we go, I do want to shout out another author, Cameron Chaney from Library Macabre. I will link his channel below and this video below. He, a couple of St. Patrick's days ago, it's hard to say that plural, a couple of years ago on St. Patrick's Day, he released a fantastic video where he watched all of the Leprechaun movies in one day, and it is so funny. So the funny thing is, I saw his video before I saw any of the Leprechaun movies except for number 1. I had only seen number 1, and then I think I watched it for a few St. Patrick's days after that, because it was like a little tradition for me to watch him watch them all. And I rewatched it this morning after finishing, watching all of these films. So it's my first time rewatching his video, having seen all the movies myself. And I got to say, we're on the same page, but it is hilarious to see him react to some of these movies. He had seen a lot of them already, but not all of them. So I highly suggest, if you like the Leprechaun movie franchise, to check out his video where he literally binges them in a day and reacts like live on camera and includes some scenes. So check out that below, because I had a great time, and that video deserves more love.
Does he take a shot after each film?
He does not.
I'll watch it anyway, because it sounds fun.
I think you'd love it, Nathan.
Yeah,
and again, also to plug Nathan again, please check out his books. They're fantastic stuff. If you love horror movies, you can't go wrong checking out Nathan's books. So thank you so much, Nathan, once again, for being here with me and for doing this fun project. You made the month even more freaking thematic and fun than I already was going to make it, because I'm a big St. Patrick's Day fan. So I was already going to do thematic things, but by you proposing this, I think it amped up the thematicness of everything. Oh, and before we go, real quick, I'll just say that I did dress up for the occasion. It looks like I'm not being thematic or, festive, but I've got my little beer clover earrings, and I do have a Dropkick Murphys shirt on with a skeleton guy with a bagpipe. So Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah, and if any of you have a favorite Leprechaun movie or a favorite scene, please write it down below, because I would love to know what you think. And Kelsi, since you've watched so many of these movies just in a span of 1 week, you should be very familiar with the Leprechaun's laugh. I want to hear you attempt that.
I cannot. I don't think I can do it justice, honestly. So I would try, but it would be atrocious, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
I think Warwick Davis is such a great actor. I really loved his portrayal. Like, I want to shout out him before we close things off, just because it's hard to act with so much facial makeup on, but he did such a great job. And he really made the character his own. And I think with anyone else in the role, it wouldn't have worked as well. And yes, we do have a actor change in the last 2 films, and I praised Returns. I mean, the actor did a decent job, but it's still not the same without Warwick Davis. So I do want to say that and cement that I think he is the reason why these films work so well, and the people behind the scenes wanting to have fun with the movie. and that fun I think comes across. So I had a great time. I think it's all about fun, and if you can keep that in mind when you're watching the films, you too will enjoy them. If you just think this is just a silly, fun, good time, just go with the flow, and then I think you will have a wonderful experience like I did. And I will say, I do want to give a special shout out to Kat again, because even though she didn't like it, Leprechaun in the Hood, I still love her, and I still suggest you subscribe to her channel. So please check that out as well.
Kat, watch Leprechaun 3.
I don't think she'd like that one either.
Damn it.
I think she would like Returns, and she might like 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I out of the other ones, though, definitely she would loathe In Space. But Kat, we want to force you to please watch them, because then that would be funny to get her rants on them. So maybe if you watch any, Kat, you can join us for a chat where we revisit this.
Yeah, Kat, watch them all back to back.
In a week.
Yes.
That'd be like a form of torture for her. She'd be like, I would never. I will say, if you guys, as Nathan was saying, comment below for any of these movies, what you think about them. But if you have your own ranking, I'd love to know your specific ranking down below. What's your number 1? What's your least favorite? I'm pretty sure universally everyone thinks Origins is the worst. So just give us your general ranking of the ones you've seen. For this time, that's basically it for us, though. Anything else to add, Nathan?
No, I hope you have a great St. Patrick's Day.
I hope you have a great St. Patrick's Day too. And if anyone's watching it the day of release, it is St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Patty's Day to anyone watching on the day of release. And top of the morning to you. That's it. Bye. Even if it's night, top of the morning.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.